Hey guys, this is Drew, and this video is for Xcom 2, and we're going to talk about here. It's a guide for walkthrough for legendary difficulty, and we're going to talk about some important things like what to research, what facilities to build, and what order, what troop composition are you going to want to use for the final mission, and also before the final mission, what are you going to want to use, and what are you going to want to equip your troops with. Okay. So if you look here, just an early game tip. Early game, it's gonna be a good idea to use stock on some of your troops. It kind of, while they don't have scopes and everything else, it's gonna guarantee that they hit something. And you can kind of use two troops with stock to kill one enemy. Then sometimes you can do stuff like that, so that helps. So one tip here was early missions, stock does help. Okay. Um, for missions prior to the final mission, here's what I went with in terms of troops. I went with one sniper with a gunslinger build, two grenadiers, and I went with the heavy weapons grenadier build. Um, and as a specialist, I went with a battle medic, and he was my healer basically. And I went with a specialist that was a combat hacker build, and he was there for hacking and increasing his hack stats basically. And I also went with a ranger for prior to the final mission. Okay, for the final mission, this is what you're going to want to work towards also. For the final mission, I went with two psi operatives. These are the most important troops you can take to the final mission. You can try to take more, but the thing is, it takes forever to try and train up the psi operatives. So this squad will get the job done, basically. You could possibly go with more psi operatives, but it's going to take you a long time to research all the abilities that they're going to want to need to know. So I'd recommend going with this squad for the final mission. Um, so basically, if you see also, I put all my troops in war suits. The war suit gives you extra armor, and it also gives the option for something called the blaster launcher, which is important on that final mission because you're going to want to be able to hit the avatar, and he's going to move around. So you're not always going to be in a position to hit him, and that's why the blaster launcher is very important. It's got more range. I've put a note here that the Strike Storm Cannon is also good instead of the blaster launcher if you don't have the blaster launcher. But I personally go with the blaster launcher for the range, and for that final mission, definitely the ability to hit the avatar is pretty key. Okay, so let's jump into base building and what to research basically. So research order, I went with this website's research order, PC Gamer, Building a Better Avenger. This is their research order, and it's pretty good. It's very good, actually. They've recommended what to research and what to autopsy. They left off the faceless autopsy, but I think they corrected that later in a later note. So faceless autopsy also, I did do that as soon as possible. Okay. In terms of what to build, I also went with their recommendations from the PC Gamer website. I followed this basically. You'll notice that the side lab is kind of like mid to late game. The reason you're not going to want to do that earlier is because it takes forever to train up your psi troops, and if they are in battle with you and they take damage, then they cannot learn their new abilities if they're wounded. So they differ from normal troops. Normal troops level up by battling and getting kills. Psi troops don't level up that way. They level up from training in the psi lab. So they're definitely different from normal troops. Okay, so this is what I went with for facility build. Okay, for builds, my sharpshooter, I went with this build, the gunslinger build. That's the best one. It has a lot of DPS, so I'd recommend getting this one. You'll notice that I differed a little bit from what they're recommending here on the PC Gamer website for accessories. Basically, I'm using more autoloaders than they use, and the reason is on the final mission, you have troops that are going to disable your load. They're gonna make it to where you have to reload basically. So the autoloader I found to be pretty important for that final mission. Okay, so that's the gunslinger build I went with for my sharpshooter. I mentioned before they also have on PC Gamer they have the specialist build. I mentioned I did go with one combat hacker, and there's definitely a good opportunity to, right before the end area where the avatars are, there is a great opportunity for your combat hacker to possibly gain something that'll help you out quite a bit. There are a couple sectopods he can hack into, and he can actually, if you can control one of those, and then it actually really gives you a big boost going into that final area. So I did go with a combat hacker, um, and I also did go with the battle medic on my final mission. The reason being is he's good for insurance, he's good for healing up whoever's been dominated by your side troops. He's basically an insurance troop, so that's the reason I went with a battle medic. Okay. For the Grenadier, I did mention I went with the Grenadier for the final mission, and before that I went with 2, and for the final mission I went with 1. But I went with this build. I went with the heavy gunner build. Okay. Okay, I mentioned that before the final mission I did go with a ranger, but for the final mission I did not go with a ranger. But I used this build, shotgunner. Um, I had one disaster in the final mission where I tried to use a ranger and he got in close, because the rangers do have to get in close to hit something. And the problem with that final mission is there's just so many troops and they just swarm whoever is closest to them. So the ranger seems to die a lot in that final mission, and that's the reason I would recommend not to go with a ranger. Some people will say, you know, that you need one. Okay, whatever. But mine died pretty quickly, and it was a disaster, and I had to restart. So I'd recommend not going with one and going with the troop composition that I went with. All right. For your side troops, there's questions about like what order to train them up in, and here's what I went with. Um, you want to grab domination as soon as you can see it available for them to train, and that's going to be one of their best abilities. The ability to grant you an extra squad member basically is pretty huge. So domination, void rift, those are the 2 best abilities for the side troops. Grab those as soon as you can. Insanity, the 3rd best, and there's a ability that actually adds rupture to insanity. You want to grab that as soon as possible. And this is from the GameFAQs website. They've done a good job of listing out what order to grab the PsyOps abilities in. Some people argue this is a great ability stasis. I tend to agree with GameFAQs. It is definitely a last resort kind of option. You don't want to use this as your first attack because you might be able to kill something, you know, or kill all the troops without even using it. So in that case, why would you stun something and just leave it out there? If you could just kill it instead. So it's a last resort where you've seen that you cannot kill all the troops on the battlefield, and you need to stun something basically. That's the situation you use it in. Okay, so I definitely agree with what they've listed here in terms of their order to get psi abilities, and I'd recommend going with this listing. Okay, the other thing I did go with, I went with a mod that actually it's actually not a mod, but it's a character pool, which is part of the game. So you can actually import a character pool to your Xcom, and basically there's kind of funny things like famous actors. So I did that. I imported famous actors into my game. Just kind of makes it more fun. You can do like Star Wars, or you can do Breaking Bad, whatever you want, but it just kind of makes it more fun. So this Nexus mods, they do have good character pools to go from to use, and I would go with one of those. Alright, well that's it for walkthrough, and good luck with Legend difficulty on XCOM 2. And if you like this video, please subscribe. Thanks. Alright.